Hey, I'm Loren Norris with StoryPower TV, and today we are actually going to talk about a book I have not yet read. I don't do that often, but sometimes I do. Today we're going to sit with someone who is a former naval officer, gone children's book author. Yeah, you're going to want to hear this one. Stay tuned. Hey, welcome to StoryPower TV. I am your host, Loren Norris, and I really appreciate you being here today. Listen, if you've got kids, this is a good time for them to gather around because we're going to share a little bit of an experience that we have never done on StoryPower TV. It is a first. Probably won't be a last, but it is a first. And that is, we're going to talk about the impact that a father has in the home and how that can be expanded beyond the home in those relationships, just understanding that little people have a different way of looking at the world. So we have in studio a guest with us today, and I really would really appreciate if you would help me welcome Travis Gerardi. Thank you for being here today, sir.
Hey,
I appreciate you coming.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So if I just dive right in here, though bad things can happen, as they often do, it's important to be thankful for the good stuff too. We have a saying we say often back in bunny land, you amplify what you magnify. Do you understand?
Yeah, that's right.
And I'm looking at the back cover of this book for those of you who can see the cover. I know some of you are listening in audio on Spotify or Apple only, but you really should be watching on StoryPower TV on any of the social media channels or on OBBM so that you can actually see this cute little book. And right here on the back cover, it says, she's feeling grumpy, gloomy, and tangled with feelings. And immediately I thought, StoryPower Academy has an entire course called Attitude Hack, and it's probably one of the most revolutionary things you'll experience as an adult. To think that Travis has jumped into that with this age group is huge. So first, tell me, obviously you're a father.
Yes, sir.
How old are your little ones?
We only have one. Her name's Evelyn, and she's 6.
Evelyn is 6. Okay. And were you still in the military when she came into this world?
I was. We were actually stationed out in Sicily, and so she was actually born out there.
Oh, wow.
In 2019.
Beautiful part of the world.
That was wonderful. One of the best experiences that we've gotten to share as a family. Spending 3 years out there.
I bet. Now, you've been married how long?
Coming up on 9 years.
Coming up on 9 years.
Maybe 8.
So about halfway through. Yeah. Somewhere in there. Always take credit for more, right?
Yeah, right.
So somewhere in there, you were already on active duty when you met your wife?
That's right, yeah. We met in 2016, back in New Orleans, of all places.
Oh. And which part of your military career was that? Enlisted or officer?
That's when I was enlisted. I was about 5 years into my enlisted time at that point, and we met while I was in school in Biloxi, Mississippi.
And what were you going to school for?
The Advanced Calibration Technician certification for, I guess just all things calibration.
And so what made you decide while you were enlisted to move to the officer side?
Oh, man. Well, it actually goes back to my very first school following boot camp. So I was in Pensacola, Florida for A school, where I was learning to be an aviation electronics technician. And our 06, or our what we call a captain at the time, there was all these rumors going around about him, about how he went from E1 to E8 or E9, like senior enlisted, and then went over to become an officer and went 01 to 06. And I just thought it was so cool that he had done it all, right? You know, he wasn't just an officer. He had experienced all the enlisted side and then jumped over. And so I said, that's what I'm going to do, right? I don't know why. It's just like, that's it. That's what I want to do. So I started about a year or so later when I got to my first command. I was able to start using tuition assistance, and I just started plugging away at college courses. And it took me about 8 or 9 years to finish my bachelor's degree between deployment and, just life and work in general, but finished it up around 2019 and then put in for my commissioning.
When I was in the Air Force, that option in my career field wasn't there because I was fire department, and there are no officers in the fire department in the Air Force. So I would have had to completely come out, retrain, and go back in, or get a degree in another field. And so the odds that they were going to let me out, go to bootstrap, and come back were like zero. So
right.
I did toy with the idea of leaving for a while, getting my degree, and going back as a chaplain, but never did it.
Oh, yeah. That would have been good.
It would have been a good journey, but I didn't do that. My son right now is on active and just started his working on his degree in law.
That's awesome.
He fancies himself being reacher. He's in law enforcement now, and he's like, I want to go back and get my degree and work my way up. And
Go be reacher. That's good.
yeah, reacher's
You
kind
got to
of
get jacked too.
That's his goal.
Just kidding.
Well, he's 6'3" and about 210 right now.
Oh, so he's got half the battle done already.
He's put on some pounds since he left, but got to keep putting those pounds in the right place.
Right,
That's-
yeah. Something I'm
That's the hard
struggling with
part,
now,
yeah. Yeah, it's funny when you get off active duty where those pounds relocate, right?
Yeah. All the
Like
walking
separation anxiety, yeah.
Right.
That's what it was.
Well, you know, my job before was walking across a ship. I think I was doing like 22,000 steps a day.
Wow.
You know, now it's not quite as active, just my general life, you know, so even if I work out.
In 22,000 steps, you could walk across our entire town 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, that's probably true.
I know. I used to have an office on the square, and I would walk to lunch, and I would walk back, and I was like, I still feel my lunch. I mean, I went for a walk after lunch, but all the way back to the office wasn't enough.
Right.
We're a mile away now, so it's a little different, but nobody wants to walk that. It's all up and downhill. So you're on active duty, you fall in love, you get married, you still wait 3 years to have a kid.
Well, we got married in 2018. So we waited about a year
Waited a year to
post-marriage.
get
But yeah,
married.
3 years together, and then yeah.
Okay. And so now that you got this little girl in your life, you can have more?
Oh, it's something we talk about. Well, what was hard is when we had her, it was actually a complicated pregnancy. My wife had to have an emergency C-section.
Oh, I'm sorry.
At the time, the doctor said that we shouldn't get pregnant again because of the complications. And so we thought that she was the only one. All of a year or so ago, she came here, and there was a really good doctor here, and she went and saw him, and they did the whole dye scan to see, and they said, he said, yeah, if you were my daughter, I'd say it's baby making time. So now we're at the point though where we have a 6-year-old, you know, and so I don't know. We definitely we never saw ourselves as just having one. And so we're kind of open to it, but we're doing, you know, the let go, let God, and we'll see if he gives us another, you know. If not, we'll give all of our resources to our one. And if we get more, then we'll be blessed. And
maybe foster, adopt, you know.
That's something important to me. Yeah, that's something that's very important to me, and me and my wife have talked about and still have definitely on the table.
Now, we have 4, and I can tell you from being a girl dad and having that 5-year age gap, there's a very interesting facet. If you haven't read the Birth Order book by Kevin Leman, get your hands on it as soon as you can. After about 4.5 years, the next child doesn't see themselves as a baby or a middle. They think they're the second firstborn.
That makes sense, because you can give them the full undivided attention again.
Well, and just the way they see the world, firstborn to baby, is completely different.
Right.
So we had 2 girls. The oldest is my redheaded stepchild. She was 4.5 when I came into her life, and so she's now not that young anymore, and a mother in her own right, but she's also a cardiac patient. She had a heart attack at 17. We nearly lost her. She spent several days in ICU, and they told her, give up your medical career. There's no chance you're going to be a rad tech. Give up all these dreams of college basketball with your heart condition. It's not going to happen. Give up the idea of ever being a mother. Pregnancy will kill you. She's an RN. She instructs those in neonatal ICU and specialized for a season in neonatal ICU as a cardiac.
That's amazing.
And so now she trains people for that thing. She is a mother of 3 boys, and 2 of them have a similar condition, but she just refused to give up.
Yeah.
Raising a fiery little redhead as a firstborn, and then having another one. Now we had 2 girls, strawberry blonde and a raspberry red, and both of them think they're firstborn. So it was constantly just, no, I'm in charge. And then when the younger one got by about 12 to be taller than the other one.
Oh no, that's when the power struggle happened.
Oh, at 14, I remember getting a phone call. We had a DJ business at the time. I got a phone call and she's like, hey, I'm just wondering, is that guy rocks your company? I'm like, yeah. Why are you asking that question? She said, do you have 2 daughters? And I'm like, oh. She said, they're in Chili's right now. I said, yeah, I can only imagine. She said, they are absolutely adorable. Do they DJ as well? And I'm like, well, yeah, they do. She said, okay, so which one is the DJ, the older one or the younger one? I'm like, well, which one do you think is the older one? She said, well, the taller one, obviously. I said, no, that's actually the younger one. And yes, she does DJ. And so we ended up doing, several, I think it was like 6 parties for this one lady over the next several years. because of the way those two interacted in a Chili's.
Oh, that's amazing.
But their relationship has always been like that. So 6 years old is a perfect time to have another daughter, is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
It'll
yeah.
be loads of fun.
I mean, I'm still interested. You know, like I definitely want to have more. So it's something on the table for
It's
sure.
a good excuse. It's a good excuse. Well, then we had 2 boys after that, and both of our boys tower over me. They're both taller than I am, and the girls are both shorter than I am. So to see the girls go, listen, you, that's not going to work out well for you. Okay, so tell me what brought the book to mind, Molly May and the Magic Magnifier.
So this was, what's funny is it all came from this concept I heard while in the Navy, where they say you amplify what you magnify.
Okay.
And so the whole idea being that if you, whatever you choose to focus on, right? So you're making bigger, you're magnifying. And the more you do that, the more it feels like what actually is, right? So if you're deciding like, oh, you know, I didn't get much sleep last night, and you choose to focus on it, you're going to magnify it, make it big, it's going to affect your day. And instead, if you choose to look for the good things, right, kind of like what you read, though bad things will happen, as they often do, it's important to look for the good stuff too, right? Because I don't think there's any, I think everyone would agree that, especially right now, there's plenty of bad that we could all look at and catastrophize and think everything's horrible. But what I've found is that you can also find, you know, the nice conversation with a stranger. You can find the nice thing being done at the store, or a relationship even between a parent and child, or, you know, and just see these interactions. And you could focus on good things like, oh, I had a great cup of coffee this morning. And if you blow that stuff up instead, it changes your perspective to be, okay, I had a good day, instead of focusing on the bad. And so I was working on this concept with my daughter, because she would do that, right? And honestly, this book is exactly written based off our interactions, right? Where she'd be like, I didn't have any fun at this party today. And I was like, what do you mean, why not? Well, I didn't get to really bounce very much, or I didn't get to jump in the jump house that often, or, you know, my favorite song, they never played it, you know, and I was like, well, but didn't you get to play with friends? And, well, yeah, and I was like, but you did get to bounce eventually. Well, yeah, you know, and I was like, well, it doesn't sound that bad. And so it was all just, and I would work on that phrase with her, which is funny with a 5-year-old, trying to get her to say amplify and magnify and what they mean, you know. But basically that concept is what I was working on, and I used to write poetry a lot back in the day, so rhyming isn't something I really struggle with. And so I just thought, you know, why don't I just make this a book? I was like, I'm already working on it with my daughter. I already have this experience, and it's a concept that took me, you know, I didn't hear it until I was 30. So, you know, how great would it be to be able to give this in a book, first to her, and then second, at all, if any kid benefits from it and can learn this concept early, how much it could hopefully change or impact, or at least that's my hope, you know, is that these older concepts that take a long time, is if I could make it fun and interesting, and that it would impact another family out there.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges, you know, obviously the concept is solid, like you said. I mean, from Brian Tracy to Steve Siebold and Jack Canfield and even Dr. Caroline Leaf, you know, you get more of what you focus on.
Right.
That's a pretty solid rule. That's like gravity. It's just a law.
Yeah.
It's why when we're learning to drive, they say, don't look at the headlights of the oncoming car. You're going to run into it.
Right.
The first time that concept really settled into me, I thought, you know, if I'm water skiing and I think I'm leaning too far to the left, I probably am going to fall to the left.
Right.
Or to the right, I'm going to fall to the right, or too far forward or backward. But if I just lean back against the rope and keep it tight and go where the boat goes,
Yeah.
that doesn't seem that hard. And following God is like that. I mean, if you're out over your skis, so to speak, you're literally going to fall on your face.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you're worried about things that are outside of your control, you're going to crash.
Right.
But you've got to submit and follow, go where the boat goes, hold on to the rope, and just do what comes at you.
Right. Absolutely.
But that's, like you said, that's a whole lot easier to teach. My first book I wrote, nowhere near this quality. In fact,
Oh, gosh.
it was so hideous. I actually had a lady several years later. She's like, I've thrown this book away 6 times.
Stop.
It's serious. Victoria Rogers, if you're watching, you know
does that
I'm
mean she
talking
bought
about.
it 6 times?
No.
Oh, was it a?
I gave it to her, and she threw it away 6 times. And she said, she called me, and she's like, meet me at Main Event. We need to talk. And I'm like, okay. And she said, all right, so I've thrown this book away 6 times because that cover is so ugly, it doesn't appeal to me at all. I'm like, why did you keep digging it out of the trash can? She said, because I've been in your classes and I love you. And I'm like, okay. She said, but that book, no. And I said, okay, so why are we here today? She said, because I finally dug it out of the trash because I didn't have anything else to read on a long flight. And I read it cover to cover on a single flight. And I said, okay. She said, that's what made me mad. I said, what? She said, I was in chapter 4, crying my eyes out, realizing that what you told me to do in chapter 1, if I didn't do that first, what you told me to do in chapter 4 wouldn't work. And it's a step-by-step book. All 13 chapters tell you something different to do to completely change your life.
Wow.
And she said it really needs to have questions in it. I said, well, there's a companion study guide that goes with it. She's like, no, put it in the same book because people are not going to buy the separate book. We redesigned the cover, the whole thing. She finally said, that's a book I could be proud to endorse and carry around. So we made that progress.
That's awesome.
But I wrote that book because I had that conversation with my mom when she was scrubbing the urinal. And she's like, I'm a high school dropout. It's the best job I'll ever have. I'm like, no, that's a lie you're telling yourself.
Yeah.
And until you change that story, you're going to get more of what you focus on.
Right.
And so when I wrote the book, though, I realized Jack Canfield, 398 pages. John Maxwell, average book, 250 to 300 pages, some of them fatter than that. Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People, 600 pages, right? And I'm like, my mother will never read those books. So how do I get this concept across to her? And I committed to writing a book under 200 pages.
Awesome.
What I never thought about was, how do I take those ideas to little kids? And so it sounds like you've taken some complicated concepts down to the elementary age level of communication, which even Myron Golden says, think like a PhD and communicate like a third grader.
That's a good saying. And that's been the that's been the goal, and I'm hoping I did it well. You know, like all I can do is my best, and and I think that's really
sounds like the title of your next book.
Maybe all I can do is my best, right? I mean, there's plenty there's plenty out there, and it is fun thinking about which other ones could have a similar impact, and I'm hoping that I can bring it down to a level where kids read it and want to read it.
So have you done live reads? Have you sat down, in the library or the local bookstore and read books to kids?
So I haven't yet. I have actually. So actually, this Saturday, the YMCA over here is having Healthy Kids Day.
Okay.
And so I'm supposed to. They invited me to come have a table, and so I'm going to come set up a table with my books, and they wanted me to do a reading actually at 12:30 and 2:30. So that'll be actually my first live reading at some event. But besides that, I was in person at St. Helens on April 4th. April 4th, and I read it a couple times when people asked, but nothing official. So I still got to get there. I'm still kind of branching out, since the publication of the book, and I'm still.
Well, we will make the studio available if you would like to do a live reading and bring a bunch of kids in and record that.
That would be awesome.
You can come in here and we'll set up some little comfy chairs for them, and we've got some little game chairs in there.
Oh, that's
and
great.
Orange chairs and white chairs, and make a space for that if you want to bring some kids in and
I'd
film
love
it. Because I think having that available on a video would be a great, not only a promo, but a great lesson as well. You might also, if you haven't already thought of it, talk to Cook's children.
Okay.
Because the hospital has all kinds of little stuff like that. And
okay.
This is the kind of stuff that would be, great to be in their library, but probably be great to read to them too.
Yeah, no, that's great, and I really appreciate that, because my goal is not to, I've got a job, this wasn't made to make money, but just impact, and that's all I want. And so anything that helps me with the reach, I appreciate, and that's really awesome. And I feel like at Cooks especially, that could be a great resource. Maybe there's kids there who could use a book or a story.
Oh yeah, well, and of course Ruth's Place and all the other Biloxi River and all the other children's advocacy programs, even right here in Granbury. Yeah. There's a great opportunity to invest in them, so to speak.
That's the goal. Yeah. That's the goal.
So when you wrote this one, how many other books were in your mind? How many other titles did you wrestle through? Or, as an author, I've written 7 books myself. I haven't published all of them yet. Some of them are still on hold. But the ones that are out there, I have a collection of poetry and short stories that I wrote while I was on active duty. In fact,
wow.
It's 465 pages, or 456, somewhere in that. It's over 450. It's the second run, because the first run, I used to just handwrite all my poetry, and I took them to a lady, and she said, I'll type them all up, and then she destroyed my originals and took credit for all the other ones that she typed.
Wait, she did?
She did, yeah. So all the originals are gone from like time I was 14 years old until I got on active duty.
Oh, I'm so
when
sorry.
I started over at 19, I kept all those. I even bought my own typewriter that had memory in it, so I would type stuff, and it would go back and retype it. And then I actually ran into a lady in 2010, 2008, when we started going to Gateway Church, and a lady said, I would love to type your stuff up. She typed it, proofread it, and we published it to make sure that nobody could steal it.
Right.
So,
man, that's the scariest part.
Yeah.
Right? You know, I mean, as you know, you put your heart, soul, experience, everything into a book. Yeah. And, you know, for me, I had a similar, well, I didn't have a similar experience as far as someone actually stealing my work. And so I'm really sorry about that. That's hard to hear as an author. But what was hard is when I finished the manuscript, right? Because then I have to seek out illustrators.
Right.
And I remember I went and got about 6 different to send me a proof, right? So I reached out, got each one to send me a page. And then I landed on one I liked. And they're like, okay, well, just send me the manuscript. And you know, there's nothing, like, in my head, even though I went and I got it copyrighted, right? And I had her sign an NDA. Because, you know, I'm sitting here like, it was like dreading it. Yeah. And even after all of that, I remember putting it in the email. And I was like sitting over the send button. And I was just like, once it's out, it's out. You know, like there's no bringing it back. And so I remember just
it's like taking your kid to daycare the first time.
Right. You're like, once they're out there, you can't bring them back in, you know, and it's like
whatever happens, you can't undo it.
Right, exactly. And even if, who knows if someone could just take it and be like, oh, it's pretty good, I'll just make some adjustments and keep it. You know, it's hard to like.
Yeah.
And
you know, Sony does that.
Do they?
Yeah. I have friends in the Christian media industry, obviously. A friend of mine is an attorney. He was actually a medical doctor. He was the first medical doctor on scene of the Murray Building bombing in Oklahoma City. He said, pulling the glass out of those babies' faces was more than I can take, and I left the medical industry. Went back and got his law degree, so now he's a JD.MD.
Wow, oh, wow. A double doctor.
Small overachiever. He's also,
yeah, just a little.
He's also a film producer, an actor, a playwright. He does all of it. But he works for one of the largest Christian film houses in the U.S., in their executive team.
Wow.
And he said, you know, you would be amazed how many times people come to us and they're like, we want you to write me a check for X. Sony offered us X. He's like, let me tell you what the legal document says that you signed with Sony, because I've had clients that went that way. They took their $5 million, $15 million, whatever it was for the screenplay, and Sony went, yeah, great. Because they'd rather spend the money than deal with the narrative.
Yeah.
And if the film has a strong message, and the film has great writing, and the film has if you got just the right actor to portray that part, the world would change the way they see things.
Yeah.
Sony will pay to destroy that message.
Right.
They'll buy it up just so that nobody ever sees it.
No one ever produces it, because it'll ruin it'll ruin a part of the industry, right?
Yeah. And so they're glad to just buy it up and do that. And I'm afraid that truth is out there. And, you know, even today I was listening to Myron Golden, and he said, you know, it's common that people feel like if I had a book, then I would be a millionaire. If I just had a book to sell, I'd be a millionaire, because once I write a book, then a lot of people, you know, want me on the stage, want me on their podcast, et cetera, et cetera. He said that's not always true, number one. Number two, there are a lot of people who are so desperate to do that they'll steal somebody else's content to write a book. And while you may be able to have their content, you don't have their character.
Right.
You may have all of the words they say, but you don't have their essence.
Right.
And their essence is what really carries it.
Exactly, yeah.
It would be one thing for somebody to write a book like this who's not a girl dad.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
To say, I understand children's concepts. You know, Jordan Peterson could write a children's book, for example. A man's a psychologist, he understands all that. But he's also a girl dad.
Yeah.
And so if someone who never had a daughter, regardless of their education level, wrote a book and said, this is for father-daughter relationships, you're like, yeah, you don't get it.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah, exactly.
I'm a girl dad and a boy dad, and I have 13 grandkids, and being a girl dad is a different thing.
Right.
It's a completely different thing.
And I remember thinking that, I actually had a conversation about that with my dad, because I was saying, you know, Dad, this book, it's like, who knows, there'd be a million other people who have said the similar story or had a similar thought or experience. And, you know, my dad's always been a great sounding board for me, you know, just really wise man. But he said, he's like, yeah, but they're not going to say it exactly how you would. And he's like, just because the story exists doesn't mean that it's going to be received the same way. And he's like, I think you should just do it and just keep doing it because you love it, you know, and people are either going to like it, they're going to, because of the person that made it, you know, or because of the heart that went into it, or the words that you used, or the way you decided to do it. And it was just, you know, it was very encouraging to hear him say that, and to think that hopefully, I could instill some of my voice in there, you know, and have it be just authentic as opposed to trying to be like something else, you know.
There's a story, I believe the first time I read it was in Everyone Communicates, Few Connect by John Maxwell. The story goes that there was a Christmas party in England back around the time of World War II, and there were several people gathered, and Grandma was in and out of the party, finally fell asleep in the corner, as old people do. And at some point they decided we're all going to share our favorite Bible passage. And so several people got up and, rehearsed or reiterated what they had memorized. A solicitor, a lawyer, stood up and recited the 23rd Psalm beginning to end perfectly, flawlessly, never missed a beat, got every word, every enunciation exactly perfect. And when he finished, everybody, nice polite round of golf applause. And a few minutes pass, and Grandma stirs in the corner, and they're like, hey, we're just sharing our favorite Bible passage. What's yours? And so she stands up and does the 23rd Psalm. But she forgets part of it, and she stumbles, and she mispronounces words. And when she gets done, there's not a dry eye in the house. And so the solicitor stands back up, and he says, I have to both apologize and say thank you. The difference between the way you responded to my story and the way you responded to hers is I know the 23rd Psalm. She knows the shepherd.
Give me chills.
That's the difference between being able to mechanically, correctly articulate the proper words in the proper order,
right,
versus tell the story that you lived through.
Yeah.
And it's the whole reason that StoryPower Academy exists.
Right.
We see so many people that want to demonstrate their expertise through the list of credentials, the articles of their resume. And you're like, that's awesome. But I don't think anywhere in the Navy they trained you to write a book like this.
No, that's definitely not from that.
And so the other thing I say all the time is, it doesn't matter how hard you squeeze a pineapple, there's no ketchup in there.
Yeah.
Like, keep squeezing it. That's not what's in there.
Right.
But what's really in there is what comes out when you're under pressure. So even the book awards that we're participating in Pittsburgh this next weekend, all Christian authors from all different walks of life, some Christian fantasy, some Christian, children's books, and all kinds of stuff. We're doing, I think right now we're at about a dozen one-on-one interviews that we'll do like this.
Oh, amazing.
And they have no idea what to expect. And I have no idea what to expect. They're like, should we send you book covers and backgrounds and synopsis? And I'm like, no, because I don't care about the book. I care about you. I want to know who you are. I want to know why you wrote this. And I want to squeeze the pineapple.
Yes, yeah.
I want to put you under pressure in front of the camera and see what comes out.
Yeah, yeah.
So tell me about your dad and siblings.
Yes, mixed families, but about 10 siblings.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
How many sisters?
Different, 9.
9 sisters.
Yes.
So you're the only one. You're the only male.
No, well, so that's what, I'm sorry. I have 2 brothers.
Okay.
So I think I have 11 siblings.
Holy cow.
I know. It's all, like I said, it's all blended, mixed. I'm the only child between my dad and my mom.
Okay.
But then the rest.
So dad had some before, mom had some before?
No, dad,
like
I was his first.
Okay.
My mom had some before. I was his first. And then my dad actually didn't get married, and because him and my mom actually weren't married.
Okay.
But him and his now wife didn't actually get married until way later. Like, they had their first kid when I was 20. So it was a full lifespan. So yeah, exactly. And so now, my youngest sister, second youngest sister, I guess, Charlotte, she's about to be 18, and then there's Bianca after that. So those are the youngest 2, but it's funny because in a way, me and my dad are raising kids together, which is an interesting experience. Granted, they're much older, but I get to pick his brain, and it's still relatively recent in there,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's pretty funny because we have with 13, we have 3 of them under the age of 2. Twins that are 15 months, 16 months this month, and one that's 9 months. But the 9-month-old is special needs. Wow. And was a way preemie. So at 9 months, he's just now doing what an average 5-month would do. So sitting up, looking around when things move, paying attention to voices, looking for people when he hears them talk that he recognizes, reaching for things and grabbing things at 9 months. Yeah. But he's still not using his legs to push up or stand up. He barely sits up on his own. On the other hand, the ones that are 15 months, they get in their little walker things and chase each other through the house like NASCAR and knock things over and pick up the dog. And you're like, how did you even do that? And, bumps and bruises all over their heads. And so it's pretty fun to watch. But what's really fun to me is watching my adult children look at me like, don't drop him. I'm like, You lived.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I got you here alive.
Yeah.
I think I can handle this. They look at my wife and they're like, Lolly, can you handle the twins? And she's like, all four of you. I mean, there was a season that I was working 60, 70 hours a week at Verizon and 2 other jobs on top of that. And Mom was at home with 3 of them under the age of 5.
She can handle the twins.
She's like, I got this. My daughter's like, are you sure? Okay? Turns around, she's like, I forget, you're the sleep whisperer. The baby's out.
Yeah.
How do you even do that? It takes me hours to put them to sleep. Lots of experience. That's
Right.
exactly how. So it's pretty fascinating to see that growing up together. So what kind of things did you learn from your dad when you were 6 that you would look at and go, it's in the book now?
Oh, man. That's a really good question. I think one of the important ones he taught me that really stuck with me is he would say, well, first was that no one else, it may not be this exact book, but who knows, a future one, but he would say that no one else cares about what you're doing. Everyone is too busy thinking about themselves, just like you are.
Yeah.
Right? Whenever I'd say, well, they're looking at me, they're making fun of me, he's like, if they do, it's only going to be in their head for like an hour. After that, they're back to
Or
thinking about what
30
everyone
seconds.
thinks about them, right? Yeah, so, and
They're
that was
only thinking about you long enough to mock you, so they don't have to think about themselves.
exactly, right? And so he gave me that one, and he also said that everyone's only been given one brain, and you only have the ability to think for yourself, so don't think for somebody else, because you can't control them, right? And you can't feel for them. So feel for yourself, do the right thing, and just know that, they're going to think and feel whatever they want, and you can't control it. So those were 2 things he taught me about, early social relationships that helped me out a lot.
And you remember those from elementary age?
Oh, yeah.
Repeated over and over again?
Yeah, maybe like 10, 11-ish. So yeah, still in elementary age. I was a little bit older when you start getting more concerned about what people think, but it was definitely something that still stuck with me, and I've seen to be true throughout my life, and try to internalize.
You ever read anything by Bruce Lipton?
I am so bad with names.
Okay.
I mean, I know Jordan Peterson, but no, Bruce, I'm not sure.
So
what
Bruce
book.
Lipton would be a good, not a contrast in the tension pulling the opposite end, parallel with a different set of values.
Okay.
Bruce Lipton has written several books. One of the most profound things that I heard from him, I didn't know until I was in my 40s. Which means I raised all 4 of my kids not knowing this, and most of my grandkids not knowing this, and I'm watching my kids raise their kids and just now discovering how profound it is.
What was it?
We've always heard, and we know this as a fact as grown-ups now, your insurance rate changes when you turn 25.
Yeah.
Why?
Because your brain connects?
The prefrontal cortex, right?
Yeah.
So now you're aware that there are consequences for stupid decisions.
Right.
Right. Imagine the number of parents who are parenting before that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay? That's a side note. Here's the real one. The subconscious brain is formed in the human between birth and 6. Now, if you've ever studied the reticular activating system, that part of the brain that causes you to constantly remember the thing you become aware of, is what your book is all about.
Right.
So the reticular activating system says nobody has a green Buick until you buy one. Now everybody seems
now
to
everyone
have
has one. Yeah.
Right? It also doesn't know past from future, real from imagined.
Yeah.
Which means whatever you tell the subconscious brain, it takes as reality right this minute.
Yeah.
And the executive function, which you don't have because that's part of the prefrontal cortex.
Right.
But the executive function that you do have tries to act on, at least emotionally, that bit of information.
Yeah.
Which means a father who yells in anger at his 5-year-old and says, I'm going to rip your head off and nail it to the wall.
Yeah.
That 5-year-old cannot delineate that that's hyperbole.
Right.
Or imaginative.
Right.
Or just some mean thing to say.
Yeah.
Their brain begins processing what would it look like if.
Right. Yeah.
And so many parents don't realize that they say harsh things to their kids because they're caught up in their own feelers.
Right.
Parents acting like children, not managing their emotions, not managing their lack of gratitude, et cetera, et cetera. And so somebody cut me off in traffic and I take it out of my 3-year-old.
Right.
And the 3-year-old's going, I just barely figured out how to open my sippy
Yeah,
cup.
yeah.
I am not responsible for what that moron just did in the traffic, but everything that's coming through you, if you're not a cautious parent. The word intention, obviously I've known since middle school as a word. The practice of intention, I have to learn to redo every day.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm afraid there are a lot of parents who have not taken time to write a kid's book, which means to me, they haven't taken the time to think through, how do I communicate the concepts that have kept me alive and allowed me to prosper?
Right.
How do I communicate them to my 5-year-old?
Right. Well, and how do you love and nurture someone who is just coming through world? And like you said, right, the most formative years are these, obviously first 6. I didn't know the exact time, but it's like at a certain point, you just, if they know if they're feeling loved, safe, protected, right? And
the hierarchy of needs.
Right. And so they need to be able to feel that. And there's actually this, have you heard of you probably heard of it. You're a very well-read man, but the crazy disrespect cycle, or the crazy cycle. Have you heard about this in regards to children?
Sure.
So it's this concept that, we both have needs, right? Parents want to feel respected, kids want to feel loved. And when a parent doesn't feel respected, it's very similar, right? Like, this can be applied in a lot of situations. But, so when a kid gets their feelings hurt, right, all they know is their feelings are hurt. They don't know particularly which one it is. They don't know they're feeling jealous or anxious, right? They know, like, I'm not happy here. And so then they're maybe doing something to make the parent feel it, right? So they disrespect them, or at least perceive disrespect, right? And so then we get disrespect, so then we act in a way that's unloving, and then they act in a way that's disrespectful, and then we act in a way that's unloving. And someone needs to break that cycle, right? Because, and it should be the parent, right? You're the one who's got the emotional, hopefully, ideally.
You're supposed to.
Supposed to, right? And barring, people have traumatic experiences and upbringings that may not give them the tools that they should have.
I have a daughter-in-law who wears a shirt that has the little starter bars on it, and it says adulting. And it's like in the it's like the lowest signal. You're like, come on, you need to fill all those in.
Exactly, and it's like, so we're supposed to be the one, like a kid, like my daughter has told me before, I hate you, Dad, right?
Oh, wait till they're 16 and they say it and you think they mean it.
Yeah, I'm sure it's coming, right? And they'll say it, but in my head, I'm like, they don't know what they're saying. They don't know the exact, there's definition, or what is it, connotation and definition, right? And it's like, the definition of hate is one thing and the connotation's another. They don't realize hate being a word that means like I don't ever want to see you, like things we would connotate with hatred.
Right.
They just know that they are having a big feeling. And
when they say that at 22 and they've got a bag over their shoulder,
you're like,
that's a different thing than when they're 6 and they're mad because you didn't give them the right color crayon.
Right. Well, one thing that I've actually stolen from my mother that I love is she would always say, like if we said something like that, she goes, "That's okay, I love you enough for both of us." Something like that, and it just made us more angry because we're,
My mother would say, I would say, I'm mad. She'd say, "That's okay, you get the same pants to get glad in." I don't even know what that means.
I don't either, but I like it.
That was as bad as keep your eye on the ball. I didn't get that till I was in my 20s.
Yeah.
Why do you keep telling me that? That doesn't make any sense.
It's good stuff, though, and it's like, so I don't know.
And it's amazing how we as adults communicate in a way that other adults look at us and go, what?
Yeah.
Like a dog hearing a funny noise. And then we think our children are going to get that.
Right. When they don't even, like you said, just learn to open their sippy cup, right? There's like, you got to speak at a level where, or understand that they aren't, I don't know, it takes me a long time to remember something.
Yeah.
And so when it's like getting frustrated at them for not learning something right away, they're learning a whole language. They're learning how to be a civilized human being, right? Not just some wild creature left to their own devices, right? They're learning a million things at any given time. And while they can learn really fast, this actually brings up another good concept that my dad taught me also, which was he taught me to always believe that everyone is doing their best. And even though their best may not be as good as yours, it may be the best they have to offer in that moment. And so really, someone might have just had a hard time getting out of bed that day. And maybe for them, being out in the world and being grumpy is the best they have to offer. It doesn't mean they're a horrible person. It just means that...
Hopefully they're not always like that.
Hopefully not, right? But people could be at any stage of life.
Yeah.
You never know what someone's going through unless you talk to them. And so the thing he always tried to instill in me is to believe that everyone is doing their best, even if their best doesn't look good in that moment. And so I think, same with a kid, right, I try to believe she's always trying to do her best. I've never seen her try to be malicious or angry. And if she forgets or she does something, I try to believe it's like, oh, she got excited and wasn't thinking it did something, right? She's trying to figure out the world. And so it's, and has that concept come back to probably bite me? Yes, it probably has, right? You know, believing everyone is doing their best is an easy way to get taken advantage of. My wife always says I'm overly gullible, you know, because I try to just believe people.
Just trust them,
you know,
right.
I just try to trust until proven otherwise, which is like, you're
Right.
so gullible.
Yeah. So you get the trust but verify on one side of that.
Right.
John Maxwell says, see everybody as a 10, and that's a high level leadership principle.
Right.
But he said, you know, give them the benefit of the doubt, give them a rope long enough to hang themselves with, but hopefully to pull their load.
Yeah.
And when you watch people demonstrate that they are untrustworthy,
Then you know how much rope to give
then you
them.
believe them.
Yeah, exactly.
Then you believe them. And until then, but another thing he made a point of, and this goes back to what you said, because it's a practice that parents need to do more, and that is sometimes what they need is us to believe that they're doing their best.
Right.
Because as adults, we use the phrase imposter syndrome.
Yes.
For them, it's an identity crisis.
Yeah.
I mean, they're in that first 10 years, they're still asking, who am I and where do I fit in this world?
Right.
And it's part of the reason that, not to get super political, but the gender confusion idea and gender surgeries for little people, they can't figure out what socks they want to wear, for heaven's sake. Watch them go out the door at 7 years old, and you're like, are you wearing that in public?
Right.
Because you're going to embarrass me looking like that.
Right.
But at some point, you're just like, let them make the decisions.
Yeah.
Let them experience the consequences. But something as permanent as a surgery for a decision, I can't open my sippy cup, but I can choose to be.
No.
What a train wreck. But at the same time, we have to give them room to say, I believe that you're doing your best when you're still trying to figure out what best is.
Right.
Could you actually do better than what you're doing right now? I believe you could, and here's how you might do that.
Right.
And I believe that's responsible parenting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't mean to say, I guess I don't mean to say that when I say believe someone's doing their best, that's the best they'll ever be. Right. Because there's also that saying,
or that you allow them to cut corners and be lazy.
Right.
Because you still raise the standard of expectation.
Absolutely. I still have a pretty high standard for my daughter. I just don't hurt her for it when she falls short, right? I will try to show her where she could have done better.
And it's not judgment, it's direction.
Right, and that's
those
exactly
are drastically different.
That's exactly what I tell her, because she'll always sit there like, oh, I'm getting in trouble. I'm like, you're getting corrected. There's a difference between correction and trouble. You're not in trouble, you're being corrected, you're being shown a way.
Right.
And there's a difference, you know, and it's, and so when I guess there's another saying that I try to, that I hold dear, which is that you don't treat someone by where they're at, you treat them by what they could be. And it's like, so I know what she can be. And so I'm going to treat her like that. But if she falls short, I'm going to believe she tried her best. And like you said, I think sometimes the most important thing is instilling in a kid that they have their parents' support and they know that when they fail, that they're not going to get it twice at home, right?
Yeah.
Because you're already going to be dealing with failure, which is arguably, or like some people use a different word. I don't have a negative connotation with failure. For me, it's like you try something.
It's a foundation.
There it is, right? Something like that. Because if you've never, the biggest failure is never trying.
There is a retreat coming up that I want you to know about. It's called the StoryPower Academy Retreat. This StoryPower Retreat is about focusing on your communication skills, taking them to the next level. Discover, develop, draft, deploy, and deliver some of the best stories you've ever learned. You're going to listen, create, connect, relax, and reflect around this beautiful lake scene in Granbury, Texas. It's a chance to rejuvenate and refresh and start over with some of the best training you can possibly imagine around storytelling, leadership, and communication. Join us, get away, and relax. I encourage you to go to StoryPowerAcademy.com and check it out. Look at the different classes, the different levels, the different things that are available. You can take a lot of them a la carte. But spend some time there and see if that's the kind of thing that would change the way you communicate as a leader, as a pastor, as a counselor, as a political leader. And if that will help you, I'd love to have a conversation with you. Again, only 10 people in the Elite Speakers. You will have to apply for that. But if you're a candidate, I'd love to have that conversation with you. I'm Loren Norris with StoryPower Academy. I look forward to seeing you inside.
Hi, my name is Christina Knowles, and I just got done taking Jay Loren's StoryPower Masterclass. It was amazing. I took away so much information. One of the things that I really enjoyed being formally trained in media many, many years ago is the call to action. I will use that with every speaking engagement, and I'm so grateful that Loren just spoke truth into his teachings, and he is a true professional. And I know this might sound weird, but I've been taking certifications in different classes over the years, and Loren is not boring. I can't even believe I got here at 9, and then the class went by so fast that I was like, it's time to go already? And I was shocked that it was time to go already. So it's an